What's up, everyone? It's Phoenix here. I'm going to keep this really simple today and just speak from a cyclical view, looking at Bitcoin and the altcoins and my perspective as a range trader. Now, I'm simply extending a very obvious range from going from the March high of 2021 down to the June low of 2022 and taking that and extending it above and finding logical targets here. Now, if we look at it that way, this is a key mid-range that needs to hold in order for these targets to play out. But as of right now, we see the breakout from that mid-range. Now, as a trader, if I'm looking at this on the lower time frames, I'd mostly be focused, let's say this is a 1 hour chart, I'd be focused on the breakout here, break and retest, and now it's shooting up with strength, okay? And so this is actually a long trigger for any chart on the lower time frames, okay? And so this is good for Bitcoin and it's good for all of crypto. So I would say that these are not unreasonable targets. Now, cyclically speaking, this level right here, where we are right now, I would compare that to the breakout that started here above 20K, okay? And so here you can see the break above the previous highs in 2017, and then the consolidation and the final break above. Now, this is a convincing break on the weekly above this key level here. So I think as long as this holds headed into Sunday, we don't get a massive sell-off into Sunday. We get some consolidation here between 75, 76K. This is extremely bullish for crypto in the coming weeks, okay? So that's my take on Bitcoin, and I'd be looking to buy the dips. And I don't often say that, okay? I'm saying here, if we get dips back into these gaps here, fills somewhere down between 74 and 71K, it should be brief, it should be a wick down, and then bought up instantly and move higher, okay? That's what we want to see if it is to sell off, but it may just consolidate. And you may not remember this, a lot of people forget, but back in the previous bull run, if you were waiting for a pullback after the breakout of this level here, well, what happened? It would consolidate, there was some movement down, but for the most part, it was gently sloping upwards until it was sharply sloping upwards, okay? And so that 30% correction that we saw here, it didn't happen until Bitcoin had basically soared past the previous all-time highs. So that might not happen right away. It might have to go to 80, 90K before we get a serious pullback, maybe even 100K, okay? Because this, I would consider all of this as this is the compression before the expansion. And so we're seeing early evidence of an expansion here. So this, to me, this is the time when I'm looking for longs, okay? Looking to position into longs, into swing positions where I can hold them for a considerable amount of time, maybe for a couple of weeks, maybe even for a couple of months, if the conditions are suitable. Now, again, as long as Bitcoin holds above this level, I'm not looking for shorts. I'm looking for longs in this market. You follow the trend. And so the trend is starting to slope back upwards here. This is a clear uptrend. And this looks like a continuation of what we saw here, okay? We did not have this clarity before the election, okay? We will see what happens, but I think the coming months are going to be surprising a lot of retail that has been sidelined. And we know that, of course, there's a lot of speculation around BlackRock buying over the counter and so on. It hasn't been announced to the public yet. And the reason, obviously, is because there's still accumulation going on behind the scenes. And so if you notice, I saw a chart that Benjamin posted the other day. YouTube views is still down for the top channels. And that's very obvious on my channel as well. Of course, I'm small fry compared to them, but still, I notice that it's not being boosted in the algorithms, okay? And that's the key point here. There's still time to get into these, and especially into some of these alts like Tau. So let's look at Tau now, and we see, okay, still holding at the range lows here, okay? And after a big move back into the range, still strong 3-day move back into this range here, okay? It looks to be consolidating here. It can be a healthy consolidation. It might take some time, because rotations don't all work out at once. They play out in different times in different ways. So right now, it seems that capital is rotating into ETH, and we'll get into that in a second here. But Tau, maybe it happens in a couple of weeks, maybe it happens in a month. But the key is to position so that when it does happen, you're prepared for it, because as we've seen, Tau can move all at once. And so the next leg up, it's going to be fierce. It's going to likely head past these previous highs, past 750, all the way up to 1,000 and beyond. That's what my belief here. This is the time to be positioning, to be adding to positions. I'm speaking out loud. I'm not speaking to anyone in particular. I'm talking to myself. Adding to positions here, anywhere between 470 and 500. I think it should hold somewhere above this level here. And then waiting for the next move up, waiting for that next move all the way up to 1,000 plus. Okay. So Tau looks very strong to me. It's one of the stronger alts. And one of the ways that we can see that is by comparing them in the altcoin season index. If we look, I used this in the previous cycle. Let me just dig it up here really quickly. You can see the strongest alt. And these are the ones that I'm usually most interested in trading. Sui is up there, okay? You can see Phantom. Phantom has come back recently, but there's Dogecoin, there's Tau right there. So it's usually in the top 5, and this will rocket. I believe this will come into the top 3 before you can blink. And at that point, it's going to be too late for a lot of investors, or they're going to be FOMOing into this at 1,000 plus. So Tau looks strong, structurally looks good. There's nothing wrong here. It's just a lull. It's the calm before the storm. Okay, that's my take on Tau. Now, Ethereum, this we've been waiting for a long time. Notice I said this can happen all at once, and it did. Right after I put out that video, it started to pump, and I entered a long position from around 2,800 because there was technically a breakout above this range level on the lower time frames. But you see that 3-day candle. Higher time frames is always easier to make these decisions. See the 3-day candle here. It broke above the range here. It broke above the mid-range here. Okay, not a strong, convincing break. It has this to contend with still. It may consolidate here, but anything above 2780 is an area of interest, okay? It's an area to be getting long on Ethereum. I don't think this is just going to go back down again. I think it has a long ways to go, actually a lot longer to go than other alts like Solana. So there's a lot of upside potential for Ethereum. I know there's a lot of complaints around it, a lot of FUD, and technically speaking, it may very well be inferior, but looking at it on the chart, okay, that's actually the best time to get involved in something like this. And I'm not speaking about spot. Of course, if you want to own spot, that's fine. But just as a trader, that's a 63% potential move just to get back to previous all-time highs, whereas Bitcoin's already above them. So Ethereum is the next logical rotation to me. And that's what typically happens in bull runs. Now, again, I always said memes are going to be an exception. They're outliers. They move in their own rhythms, okay? But usually we go from Bitcoin to the large caps. So here we have Ethereum and Solana and Dogecoin, and then into the mid to small caps, okay? And so this is actually playing out the way we want it to. It's breaking above this triangle here. It's breaking above this key mid-range, and this mid-range is a significant mid-range, okay? It goes back in time, okay? So I think this is, to me, this is an area where I'd be looking to get long and targeting at minimum up here at around 3,800, and then maybe seeing if it can push back up here. Depends where Bitcoin goes. Maybe Bitcoin needs to push to 80, 90K before Ethereum can do that, or maybe not. Maybe Bitcoin consolidates here for some time or continues to grind up steadily, and Ethereum just continues to outperform in the coming weeks, okay? So Ethereum BTC today up 1.5%. You see that big move off the lows there. Hopefully there's some follow through and we get an actual V reversal, something similar to what we saw here. That is quite possible here for Ethereum, given the sentiment. The shift in sentiment is what's key here. Solana also, compared to BTC, is starting to, it's still holding strong. It looks like it wants to run its highs. Not as much room to go now at this point. I said 200 was a very likely possibility. It came to range highs now, maybe some consolidation here, but the next logical target for this is 261, and Solana has been stronger than Ethereum for some time now. So Solana is another one that wants to, that's chomping at the bit to head back to its highs and potentially beyond, and that could be sooner than many realize. That could be in the next week or two, okay? That just depends on what Bitcoin does here. But I am optimistic about Solana and Ethereum from here. Okay, so Dogecoin had a big move up into the election, and now it's consolidating at this key level here. Okay, is it going to make another push? I think so. I think it's going to make another push up and make a move up towards these highs again at some point. There is actually a lot more upside potential here with Dogecoin, even though it is number 8 by market cap. That's a 260% move back up to the highs there. And so it's pushing these range highs just in the same way that Bitcoin is, or sorry, that Solana is pushing its range highs. And there's a blue sky up here. Of course, you have resistance levels up here, but this is a good trading opportunity here for Dogecoin, in my humble opinion. Now, I'm not looking to take a long here. I did have a long from down lower. I took profits, but if you get a breakout on the higher time frames back above here, it's also above its key mid. If you take the high here and the low here, it's getting back above it. So a range play on the higher time frames. As an investor, you don't have to be trading with leverage. You don't have to be trading perpetual futures. You can just simply take a spot position here and assume that as long as it holds above this mid on the higher time frames, say the weekly time frame, as long as it holds above there, okay, stay in the trade and ride it at least to here. Okay, so this makes sense structurally from a spot perspective. Okay, so I like the odds on Dogecoin as well. What I don't like about Dogecoin is how unpredictable it is, really. I mean, it spikes both ways. So some people like this more than something like Solana, because when it moves much faster. Okay, NEIRO is another one that is pushing its range highs here. I definitely would not look to long this here, but as a meme play, this has, I think it's about $1 billion market cap. So it's 28 times less than Dogecoin. So this actually, it could, and it also, the chart actually looks very healthy to me, but we don't have as much price action to go off of here. But is this a place to take a position? For me personally, I don't like to long into resistance. I'd want to see if it could come down first. It had a 50% move in one of these daily candles here, so not really so interested in that just yet. And Sui also. Sui is just sitting very close to highs. Sui could be the next Solana pick for the VCs, right? I mean, it seems that is the case because it is in the top 20 now, but it's still only a $6 billion market cap. So compared to Solana, maybe this is the beta play that ends up doing many more multiples than Solana in this cycle. And so the question is, well, where do you get in? Well, again, we have a gap here on the 3-day. I'm not sure how much of this will fill, but if it does come down to 215, somewhere in the middle of this gap here, I'd be looking to take a spot position and maybe perpetuals, depending if I have a clear invalidation here. So Sui looks strong to me. It's continuing to show strength. It definitely, since Bitcoin had made its strong reversal, I flipped my bias on this because, if that had been the top for Bitcoin, then obviously Sui would have gone much lower. But Sui now is showing resilience, and especially after this candle here, I would not be looking to fade this. I'd be looking to take longs on this and to add to spot positions. Okay, but I'm hopeful that this can come down at least somewhat. And keep in mind that altcoins can dip while Bitcoin goes up, because what happens? The FOMO kicks in and people sell off some of their alts. They take profits, they rotate into Bitcoin, and Bitcoin dominance continues to go up. And then they go back into the alts. So there's sort of there can be a timing to it. So don't be distraught because Tau is down below 500. Don't be thinking, well, what's going on? Why is this? It's a dead coin, right? No, it's just consolidating. It made a big move already. It needs some time to digest the move. And we don't know exactly when it's going to come back, but we know that overall, if you look on the higher time frames, that's the key. We see Tau actually looks pretty strong compared to most other altcoins. If you compare it to Bitcoin, if you compare the chart itself, okay? So that's what I'm paying closest attention to. That's basically it for today. I don't want to do too many here. I don't want to cover too many altcoins. I just want to focus on where I think the money is flowing into in the near term. And I hope that you enjoyed the video and that you're making some money, and have a beautiful rest of your day.